Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Paul came out of his bedroom wearing his Monarch Hotel front desk uniform, a powder blue silk blouse worn over a dark blue skirt suit with a small bow made of red ribbon under the collar. He wore gray clothes, black court shoes with a 3-inch heel, and tights. His ears sported 2 sets of earrings, fancy silver dangles in the lower lobe, and half-inch clusters of sapphires and zirconium in the upper holes. His scent was wonderful. His mom had helped him put his long black hair up. To go to work, he wore makeup that was purposely subdued and very different from how he preferred it, because men weren't supposed to wear too much makeup at the front desk of the hotel where he worked, though moderation was required. Paul thought the balance was pretty good. He looked at himself in the hall mirror and smoothed a stray hair back into place, taking the chance to admire his long, well-done nails. He was proud of his nails because they were his own, not acrylic, and they were polished in a soft shade that matched his uniform blouse perfectly. Though he had turned down the free stickers, which his mother thought was a bad idea since it would have helped his chances of getting promoted, Paul couldn't agree with her. He knew it was risky to be so flashy, even though he was just a cashier and not the head clerk. Now he wished he had accepted them. He decided he would for the next time. He smiled at his reflection as he picked up his shoulder bag, air-kissed his mother on the cheek, and turned to leave the house. "My darling," she whispered softly, "you look absolutely beautiful," wrapping him in her love. Paul didn't need to look at his jewelry. A nice watch, a Tiffany chain, and 4 rings, one with a diamond solitaire on the left hand's 3rd finger. But he did. Yes, he was engaged to Lisa, but for how long? He had been very sure that he wanted Lisa to pick a date. She had been putting it off for a few weeks. As he walked up the quiet cul-de-sac from his home, he smiled proudly at neighbors and friends, yet he had a strong feeling that things could get better, but maybe not in the way he didn't dare to think about at all. His bus was at the top of the road, and he got on when it came, paying for his weekly ticket. He went up to the upper deck, found an open seat, and lit his first cigarette of the day, using a wooden cigarette holder to protect his lip gloss. It took about an hour to get into the city. He watched the cars and people moving quickly through the area. He noticed a young, happy couple standing with their arms around each other, hugging and smiling. Both of them wore skirts and high heels. Of course, almost everyone did. From his seat on the bus, he wasn't sure which one was the genetic female, but it didn't matter. Every day, on his way to work, he thought about how things had changed. It hurt his chances of getting promoted, but that was a long time ago. He was 27 years old, and it had been 12 years last week since the female movement first took over and won in all but a dozen places across the country. They had won 3 more since then. In the last 2 presidential elections, both parties had seen clear victories, so their appeal was evident. Quickly, they took control of all the businesses and replaced most of the top employees with women. Other than workers, the only guys who were kept on were those who complied fully with the new dress. There was a lot that Paul's mother did to help the women's movement before and after that historic election win. She had helped come up with the new rules and raised her son to wear skirts and makeup as soon as the new laws were made public. In the 3rd week, his dad lost his job, and his wife and son were both furious because they thought it would hurt Paul's hopes in the future. Then he began dressing properly. He surprised himself by really liking it. Paul couldn't wait to start wearing skirts and dresses outside. He quickly got his first and only job as a junior receptionist at the city's largest hotel. He moved up the ranks to become a supervisor and then a shift boss. He got good pay and benefits, and all of the top bosses told him it wouldn't be long before he was promoted to receptionist in charge. His clothes were always very nice, and he often received compliments from wealthy female guests and management staff. He knew very well that if he could just get one more promotion, or if he could marry Lisa, he would enjoy all the perks that came with that. He didn't really care how it happened, as long as it did. He would do anything to reach that status. He looked at the ring one more time and thought of Lisa, who had given it to him. She took him to dinner last Friday. He wore a full-length silk dress and 5-inch heels to the dance. They attracted a lot of attention as she led him around the floor. However, he didn't like it when she hugged him while they were dancing because it ruined his makeup, forcing him to run to the powder room as soon as the dance was over. Afterward, they talked about their relationship and the future, and during a tender moment, Lisa expressed her feelings, hinting at deeper commitments. Paul was left to ponder her words and what they meant for both of them. "Here we go again," she said. "Of course, I love you, Paul." He sighed and said, "You don't say it like you mean it or like you used to." As he got away from her, Lisa put her arm around him and tried to pull him back, but he resisted. She tried to hold on, but eventually she gave up. "Why do you guys always want commitment?" she asked. "We're having fun, right? We'll get married someday. But I don't even want to think about marriage yet. I just want to have fun. Remember what this was all about at the start?" Paul became angry. "Is there someone else?" Paul yelled as he got up and turned his back on her. It dawned on him that the situation was not improving. He could see no future in this kind of relationship. He remembered his last relationship with frustration, if he could even call it that. That night, he had to clear his mind. He dressed as Lisa watched from the bed. "Please don't go, sweetheart," she said. He looked her in the eyes and asked in a whisper, "Do you love me? How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not ready to get married. We've only been dating for a short while." She argued that it was too soon for such promises. He got out of bed and went to the table to do his makeup again. His face was wet with tears. "I can see now, you never wanted this to go anywhere. You just wanted your needs met. I want something real, something that leads to marriage and family, but I can see that's not what you want," he said. "Please, just let me go." Lisa was left alone with his thoughts. "We're still together, and I'll see you at work on Monday," she stated. Left by himself, he cried so much that he collapsed on the bed. Monday came, and he had to face her at work. He wondered if it was worth staying just because she was the managing director's daughter. Those thoughts made him cry as he waited for the bus doors to open. Without realizing it, he found himself on the street. He arrived on time to take over from Peter, the night desk worker. Before he could settle in, Paul was told to report to the managing director's office on the 12th floor. He hoped it wasn't Lisa. He hadn't seen her since Friday. He was ready to apologize, make up, and hoped for some good news to lift his spirits. In the meantime, it could be her mother, ready to rip him apart. That might change things a lot. Even though he said he was going upstairs for work, he did it out of habit. He got his bag from under the bar and grabbed it as he walked toward the elevator, where he quickly checked his makeup. The elevator ascended quickly. In a matter of seconds, it stopped at the 12th floor, where Peggy Mitchell was waiting. She is the managing director's PA and has quite a bit of power on her own, which she made clear by her demeanor. She gave Paul a quick but thorough look and smiled. "Good morning, Paul. You look great today. I love how you paint your nails. Weren't you told about the meeting this morning?" she asked in a soft voice. "No, Miss Mitchell, I wasn't," Paul replied directly. He was relieved the summons had nothing to do with Lisa. "Yes, that makes sense. I will check on that, though. Follow me," she said, leading the way into her office and gesturing toward a couch with a wave of her hand. "How would you like to be addressed? Paul? Miss Paul? Paula?" She laughed. "Paula would be great, but no one has ever called me that." He smiled. "Except my mom in private and Lisa at important times, so I think I should stick with Paul." "Yes, that might be best. But since you mentioned it, you will be moved to reception manager on Wednesday. Almost everyone in that area already knows, so why keep it a secret?" Paul's face lit up with so much joy that he could hardly believe what he heard. He had to ask if it was a joke. "To be clear, Paula, it's not a joke. And you called me Paula, Miss Mitchell." "I did. And you can start calling me by my first name whenever you want. Now, there are some things we need to sort out, and one of them will be very important to you. You will be able to get surgery. That's great, isn't it?" "Oh, my God. This is the best day of my life," he replied. "Go home now and tell your mom the good news." She'll be thrilled, even if your dad might not be, Peggy suggested. Paula made a face. Don't worry, Daddy will be okay with it. A few years ago, he might have complained or tried to talk me out of it, but he's come to terms with it now. And if he did complain, Mommy would set him straight. When can I make an appointment? You'll need to call the doctor. If you do it now, we might be able to finish by tomorrow. That's fantastic. I was worried I might have to wait a long time. Paul stood up to leave the office, but suddenly asked, May I ask you a question? She nodded. Of course. Do you think my promotion will change things with Lisa? Last Friday, she said she doesn't want to get married. We're not on stable ground right now. If I have the surgery, do you think it will affect our chances of getting back together? It might, but if she loves you, she won't mind. When his mother heard the news, she was very happy, and that night, there were big parties at home. His dad wasn't as happy, but he kept it a secret from his wife, who kept giving him funny looks in case he said something wrong. Paul was alone while waiting for his surgery. He asked for some help and got moved up on the list at a nearby clinic. This time, it would happen on Tuesday morning. He was very scared while waiting for his surgery, and his mother held his hand. As he was wheeled into the operating room, a young nurse named John held his hand and comforted him. Dr. Karen Weir, the surgeon, smiled softly at him. He watched her get ready, and then a mask was put over his face, and he slowly fell asleep. The next morning, when he woke up, he looked down the bed attentively, but the hills that pushed up the blanket made it impossible for him to see his feet. We ask that you not touch anything for the first 12 hours to allow everything time to settle, he said. I'll call your mother now that you're awake. He smiled and left the room. As his mother walked in, she smiled and said, You look so beautiful, honey. After a couple of days, he was allowed to go home. Finally at home, his mother was in the room with a couple of expensive bags. Just for you. He took them, opened them up, and she handed him some lovely underwear. They'll tide you over until we can go shopping together. Thanks, Mom, he said, and then gave her a big hug while she held him in her arms. Weeks went by, feeling better and better. Paula didn't see Lisa for a few weeks. Finally, it was time for work again. He was awake for a long time on the morning, waiting for the alarm to go off. He jumped into the shower and watched as the water ran. He picked out a powder blue bra and matching underwear set. Come in, he said when someone knocked on the door. When the door opened, his mother popped her head in. Let's see how everything fits you. Oh, you've got it on already. Paula, you look wonderful. Thanks, I feel like Paula now. His mother helped him with his hair, and then he looked at himself in the mirror and was amazed. When he changed clothes, he felt so excited afterward. As he walked down the street, he could tell that people were looking at him, which made him feel great. He walked into the hotel and checked in. Wow, you look great, said Scott as he passed by one of his colleagues. As Peter walked over to the front desk, he couldn't take his eyes off. Peter, stop looking at me. I'm now your boss, he laughed. Sorry, boss. This was meant for you yesterday, he said, handing over his new name tag, which read Paula Manager. He smiled and put it on. He was on the phone when he saw someone standing in front of the desk. No problem. We'll have the suite ready for you when you get here, he said, ending the call. He put down the phone and looked up to see Lisa just standing there. Paul, you look really great. May I talk to you? Do you think we've said everything that needed to be said? He asked, trying not to sound too upset. Yes, you were right. I was way out of line. Can we talk? How about Friday night? I can reserve a table for us at that little Italian place you really enjoy, she said. He thought for a while. Should he say yes and confront her with that ring? He did love her. Okay, that's fine. I'll pick you up after work, he agreed. Okay. Lisa turned around and walked away. He watched her leave, knowing she was everything he ever wanted. Besides that, she would soon take over as the managing head of the hotel from her mother. Friday came quickly, and he packed a small black dress to change into before going out with Lisa. The day before his date with Lisa flew by. He woke up, went to the bathroom, and changed. It had been a while since he had worn the dress. It was short and cut quite low. The dress clung to him like a second skin, so he adjusted it, washed his face, and combed his hair back. Then he placed his clothes in the bag, walked out of the bathroom, and saw Lisa standing next to her Mazda MX-5. She gave him an approving look. He walked across the parking lot to get to her. "You look great," she told him. He got in when she opened the passenger door. The car was smooth as it drove through the light traffic in the evening. They parked the car and made their way to the restaurant on foot. The waiter seated them at a table in a quiet part of the restaurant, away from other customers. "What do you want?" she inquired. "I'll have my usual," he replied. "2 chef's specials and a bottle of your best clear wine," she told the waiter. He turned around and went to the kitchen. "Lisa, what do you want to talk about?" Paula asked. "Paula, it's hard for me to say that I'm wrong, but in this case, I need to say I was very wrong. I've been full of thoughts since Outfight and your surgery. I was out of order with how I talked to you, and I was mad at myself for it. I was so scared of losing you. I have made a big decision. I want us to get married right away." Paula was shocked as she sat there. Was she dreaming? She meant to pinch herself to check if it was all a dream, but it wasn't. He gave her a smile. She got up, walked around the table, and they gave each other a hug. "Do you still feel bad about the SRS now?" "No, it means I can finally really love you." After smiling at each other, they hugged for a long time. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.